Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Twinsburg regular council meeting on January 26, 2021 to order. The time is 7:30 p.m. We are at the Twinsburg Government Center Council Chamber. The meeting is being held hybrid with council in person and public participation via Zoom due to the current COVID-19 statewide guidelines. Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
At this time, Mr. Barr will lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that affect all of our residents and businesses and our dedicated city employees. Bless those away from us serving to protect our country. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the regular council meeting on January 12th, 2021, and the special council meeting on January 19th, 2021?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as accepted. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Fury and a second from Mr. Scafidi. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes. The approval of the minutes passes 7-0. Do we have any awards or presentations this evening?
There are none.
Do we have any audience participation?
Rob Benjamin had signed up, but as stated in the caucus meeting, if there's no questions, he does not need to speak again.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to council communications and committee reports. Mrs. Stoffer?
The ARB met on January 21st. There were 3 items on the agenda. Case 21-109, 1765 West Idlewood Sunroom was approved as noted. Case 21-01-10, 8900 Darrell Road, Suite H105, Belltown Sign Review. This was a sign for, it was for the Belltown, but that was approved as noted as well, as submitted. It was approved as submitted. And then case 21-01-11, another sign was, and this was for fast signs. This was, finders, keepers, sign review, fast signs, and that was also approved as submitted. I'm sorry, I have my glasses at home, so I'm struggling to read. And that is the next meeting. Let's see, I don't have the next meeting, but it's Thursday. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Fury?
Thank you and good evening. First of all, I'd like to offer the Simichek family their condolences. The chief was a pillar of our community, and I know the mayor and others are going to speak about that in more depth. The Comprehensive Plan Committee will meet virtually on February 10th. The Environmental Committee will meet virtually on Tuesday, the 2nd of February at 7 o'clock. The CIC has not met, and that's all I have this evening. Thank you very much.
Mr. Barr?
Good evening, thank you. The scheduled planning commission meeting for yesterday was postponed. So the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting is currently scheduled for Monday, February 22nd at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. The safety committee is going to meet on March 9th 2021 at 6 p.m. in council chambers, so be sure to join us for that. And I had the pleasure for the past year serving as the chair of the Finance Committee. We did have a Finance Committee meeting this evening that I will let our new chair, Mr. Scafidi, report on. Just one note, it was a pleasure presiding over that committee and working with our fine finance department. They did receive a state auditor's award, an award with distinction, and that's something that should be lauded and celebrated. One of a handful of communities that was a recipient of that award. So I'd just like to commend them for doing an excellent job. Mrs. Stauffer, the next ARB meeting is February 4th. I just saw it, right? That's okay.
Yeah.
And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Scafidi?
Thank you and good evening. As Mr. Barr said, I am now the chairman of the Finance Committee and we did meet earlier tonight at 5:30. We had there were a few people in attendance at our meeting. However, the department heads and the finance director were in our meeting via Zoom. Just to be brief, it was a pretty long agenda, but Sarah, our finance director, went over the 2020 financial review for us, and things ended up better than we had anticipated for 2020. And she was really in detail, and I appreciate all the detail and everything that Sarah does and sends out for us. She keeps us abreast of everything, which is very helpful to all of us. Second on the agenda, we went through the 2021 permanent appropriations. We had presentations from the Golf Pro Shop, which was Brian Menard, and from our golf maintenance was Jim Roberts. And the Parks and Recreation and the Senior and Fitness Centers was Jennifer Bennison. And they went over basically everything that they had in their budgets for this year has remained unchanged. There are a few adjustments that they'd like to make, and council will be looking into that further. They will be providing us with more detailed information, and we'll make a decision before probably sometime in February. We also discussed under miscellaneous, we discussed the Christmas lighting that we had talked about for this year. Last year we did a limited program with our Christmas lighting, and we talked about holding it off until we decide what we're going to do this year, and we're looking at a more permanent lighting program than we've had in the past. And so I look forward to seeing some more information on that from Jen and Sarah. Finally, Sarah talked about we have a sewer bank account that we haven't used for a while, and so she would like to transfer that money out of there and close that account and put it in another account, which we all had no problem with. And they're also working on, and we've talked about this several times, a multi-year financial planning. And the department heads and the mayor and this administration is looking to do that. So we're not always hit with surprises when something comes up. If we could plan ahead of time, it would really make it more fiscally responsible for all of us. Other than that, like Scott mentioned, the award that the finance department received, I think they all deserve to be commended for that. That's a prestigious award and something that they work very hard on doing. And so, again, Sarah and her team, thank you very much for all your hard work. And the mayor, I'm sure everybody's involved in that, so we appreciate your hard work, and thank you for securing that award for the city of Twinsburg. The next meeting of the Finance Committee will be on February 23rd at 6 o'clock right here in the council chambers. And that is the end of my report for now. Thank you.
Mrs. Walker?
Good evening. I have nothing to report as far as my committee's meeting in January, but the month of February, the Chamber of Commerce will be meeting February 16th, and the Community Relations Board will be meeting on February 18th. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Mr. Bellin?
Thank you. Good evening. I attended this evening's Finance Committee meeting as well as the public hearing to discuss the two rezoning issues. Thank you to Mr. Benjamin for joining us and explaining those issues. The Board of Zoning Appeals is scheduled to meet tomorrow, January 27th at 6:30 p.m. That meeting will be held via Zoom. The Public Works Commission is scheduled to meet on April 13th at 6 p.m. Committee on Racism as a Public Health Crisis will meet on Monday, February 8th from 7 to 8 p.m. here in council chambers. Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. I attended the golf advisory meeting via Zoom last Tuesday. We did not have a quorum, so we really could not have a meeting, although Brian did share with us that the year for 2021 was excellent in terms of rounds of golf, primarily because there's two factors that the golf course cannot control, but that were positive, and that's people had time and the weather cooperated. So hopefully that'll continue for 2021. I am a member of the Finance Committee, and I'd like to also congratulate our Finance Department on their award. And I want to thank also all of council that every meeting you attend. So I think that the public needs to know you're all here, we're all really working through the finances. And that's all I have for that. And on to the mayor's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just talking about a few things. I had mentioned and posted about communications I've had with both the county and the governor's office regarding vaccines. And so we're working real hard to, with both state and county level, to try to get vaccines to our residents here in Twinsburg. I've talked with a number of seniors who have been trying to make appointments. Some of them have been successful. Recently, in the last 24 hours, I've gotten messages that appointments are now being made, whether it's at UH or Drug Mart or Giant Eagle. Those are the main places. So we're all hopeful that we'll continue to get an ample supply and that we can continue to vaccinate right now through our seniors, our healthcare workers, and I know the teachers are going to start next week, I believe. They're going to be eligible to start signing up. So I'm very hopeful that hopefully by mid to late spring, we're going to start seeing more vaccines enter the market. I kind of mentioned this. One of the big players is Johnson & Johnson, and that could really be a game changer, I think, for the country. They're stockpiling about 100 million doses, and as soon as they get through their final phase of testing and approved, hopefully that'll hit all the states and really start making an impact on all this. But any more information I get, I'll share through social media, or we'll share it through the city's website. I do also want to congratulate our finance department. This is the first time we've received the Auditor of State Award with distinction, so it's a 4-star award. You know, a lot of work goes into what Sarah and her team does, and we're intimately involved. Dave and I, and watching how she keeps the city straight in terms of our finances, and she does a lot of hard work for us, and we really appreciate it, and we're glad to have her here. But she has a really good team. Jennifer, Brenda, and Karen all do a great job for the city. They work hard, so they have 4 bodies, but they do a tremendous amount of work in there and deserve this award. Next, we're starting to head into our renewal for our healthcare, and we've been talking about this for a number of years, working really hard on, and both, I guess, administration and employee base working really hard on keeping our claims low and really just becoming more aware of how we spend our healthcare dollars, which really helps the bottom line for the city. This is about a $3 million expense that we have very little control over when we talk about providing healthcare for the city as a whole. Each year, most municipalities brace for anywhere from a 10 to 15, 18% increase. We've been fortunate to keep our claims low enough over the last couple years to keep either a flat rate or just a couple percent increase, and it has put us in a position to now go self-insured. We've done that with in-depth consultation with our broker, a lot of analysis, a lot of projections. But at the end of the day, over the last 3 years, if we had been self-insured, it would have saved a couple $100,000 a year in healthcare costs. So it's something that we don't go into lightly, but we're proud of the progress we've made over the last 4 or 5 years and the position we're in now to do that. For our employees, it's really going to be a seamless transfer. We still have our same MMO will still be doing all of the claims, and we'll still have our same supplemental policy. So but that's something we're going to be moving toward this year. and be rolling it out in March for our renewal. I'd like to congratulate Lieutenant Tom Mason. There's certain coursework that our officers can do, and then there's certain coursework that our lieutenants can do in terms of the executive advancement that they're able to do. So he's just completed a certification of law enforcement executive, which means a lot for the department in terms of his role he plays as lieutenant. Besides the chief, he's the second in charge right now, so it's important that he has this kind of training, and I know he's been working on it for over a year, so I just want to congratulate him on completing that. So we talked a little bit about the crosswalk at Liberty Road, so that was up at Calca, so if you weren't watching, we've been talking about this for a number of years. I've been meeting with Service Department and talking with engineering, and so we will have a crosswalk this year. We're pricing it out, and that'll have access from developments over across Liberty Road into our ball fields. So we have a couple of crosswalks around the city, so these will all be consistent the way we design them and light them with the signs. I am kind of announcing for those seasonal hirings that we really didn't do a lot of last year, we are going to advertise this year. We talked about it during some of our finance meeting and budgeting, but we're working on doing a camp. I'd like to do a camp this year. We're working with Parks and Rec to make sure we kind of organize a couple of different camps and then have to determine what we do because we're not sure what COVID's going to lead us to. But with that being said, we'll need some seasonal hires, and we'll be hiring those around the city as usual. So if you're interested in working for the city this summer, watch the website because those will be coming up probably within the next 2 to 4 weeks. And then lastly, I just want to give my condolences to the family of Chief Simichek, Daniel Simichek. You know, he has always been someone who has stood out in the city, has been with the city fire department he was with for 40 years. And I didn't really realize that until just recently, looking at his history with the department. He was 28 years as a firefighter with the department before he became chief, and then he was 12 years as chief. He started in 1957 with the city, and in 1985 was promoted to chief, and then retired in 1997. So I know he shares a lot of the history of our fire department, and I know he's going to be, terribly missed by his family and a lot of people in this town. His name's kind of stamped all over this community, so just want to give my condolences to his family. And that is all I have this evening.
There are no department head reports this evening, so we'll move on to legislation and ordinance 103, 2020.
An ordinance rezoning certain property located at 1816 East Aurora Road, Twinsburg, Ohio, from C2 commercial use to R5 residential use.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 103, 2020. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Ordinance 103, 2020, it's on its third reading. This will be taken to the Board of Elections in order to be on the May ballot. A public meeting was held earlier tonight regarding the rezoning. Is there any discussion? Shannon, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 103, 2020 passes 7-0. Ordinance 104, 2020.
An ordinance rezoning certain property located at Ravenna Road, Twinsburg, Ohio, from I2 industrial use to R5 cluster residential use.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 104, 2020. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Ordinance 104, 2020, it's on its third reading, and this will be taken to the Board of Elections in order to be on the May ballot. And this was also discussed in the public meeting earlier tonight. Any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ordinance 104, 2020 passes 7-0. Ordinance 04, 2021.
An ordinance submitting a proposed tax levy to the Summit County Board of Elections requesting that they place a 2.4 mil tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation, providing support of the City of Twinsburg's Police and Fire Department's Capital Fund and the Police and Fire Pension Funds on the City of Twinsburg ballot at the May election on May 4th, at the primary election on May 4th, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 04, 2021 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. This is the tax levy for police and fire. It's on its third reading. The reason for the emergency is to waive the 30-day waiting period, and the deadline to get this to the Board of Elections is next week in order to get on the May ballot. Any discussion?
Yeah, just, we've been talking about raising funds over the last several years. We've been talking about the need specifically to support our police and fire. I know that, even in those discussions last year, even the most ardent, people that were against raising taxes went out of their way to say that they would support police and fire. So I am absolutely 100% behind this, and I look forward to it passing.
If I may add, to springboard off Mr. Bellin's comments, the option to put this on the May ballot stems from a lot of work that the mayor and council and the finance department has put into this and given it due consideration. The decision to move forward with this is basically in concert with the responses that we received with the community outreach program that we did. The majority of respondents overwhelmingly supporting our police and fire financially. And that I just want to echo the fact that we listened, council listened. I know we don't always get credit. The mayor listened, and we move forward with this plan to take care of our first responders. And I'm with Mr. Bellin, I support it.
Thank you.
And if I could just say, as we look forward to hopefully this passing, I know some of the discussions were regarding the accounts that this could go into and how this could be spent. And I do appreciate Mr. Barr mentioning a lot of thought and consideration was given to the survey results, and there is still a need beyond this particular levy. Right now, looking at where we are at and where we may be going. However, based on the feedback we got, this is, I think, the right move for the first step of what we do. But those accounts will be specifically designated accounts that this millage will go into. The police and fire pension are separate accounts that are already established. Money cannot be withdrawn from that once it goes into that, and then we will have separate capital accounts that will be created for both police and fire for the capital portion of the millage that's being asked for. So I know that was a question that was raised both prior to the survey and then during the survey, so I just wanted to make sure we address that too, and I would hope that all of council supports this.
Any other discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 04, 2021 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second. Yield.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. Any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ordinance 04, 2021 passes 7-0. Resolution 05, 2021.
A resolution requesting and authorizing the Summit County Board of Elections to place upon the City of Twinsburg ballot at the primary election of May 4th, 2021, the question of whether Ordinance 103, 2021 rezoning certain property from C2 commercial use to R5 residential use be approved and declaring an emergency.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution 05, 2021 as an emergency. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. The reason for the emergency is to suspend the 10-day waiting period. This must get to the Board of Elections by next week to be on the May ballot. Is there any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Resolution 05, 2021 passes. Oh, wait, no. Do I do that?
That was the emergency.
That was the emergency passes. Okay, and then, so now I have to do,
It passed as an emergency
Passed
because
as
resolutions just
You're
need
good.
one.
okay. So now we move on to Resolution 06, 2021.
A resolution requesting and authorizing the Summit County Board of Elections to place upon the City of Twinsburg ballot at the primary election of May 4th, 2021, the question of whether Ordinance 104, 2020, rezoning certain property from I2 industrial use to R5 residential use be approved and declaring an emergency.
Okay, and I make a motion to adopt on an emergency, Resolution 06, 2021. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Are you?
Doesn't matter. She
All
got
right.
it.
All right, Mrs. Stoffer. Any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 06, 2020 passes on emergency 7-0. Ordinance 07, 2021.
An ordinance amending Chapter 1173 of the codified ordinances of the City of Twinsburg regarding signs.
This is the first reading, and Mr. Maestros, would you like to comment on this?
Just to indicate that this is the sign ordinance. It's a total revamp of our existing sign ordinance. It covers everything, as I indicated earlier at the caucus, from temporary signs, which include political signs, to industrial and billboard signs. So this has been through Planning Commission. It's been through Larry Finch's office a number of times. They've revamped this. This came out of some case law concerning making all signs content neutral. And we feel comfortable that this will put Twinsburg, at least currently, will be in compliance with everything we need to. And I think, going forward, this answers all the questions that we've had in our kind of antiquated sign ordinance.
Thank you. Thank you. Council, is there any discussion? Ordinance 08, 2021.
An ordinance amending Section 147.10 of the codified ordinances of the City of Twinsburg regarding employees working out of classification and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place Ordinance 08, 2021 on its third and final reading and declare it as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Is Mr. Brown going to speak on this, or?
Mr. Mayor, I can. So this is something that is language that's being changed in 147 to allow an employee to work out of class or out of a particular classification. So it gives some flexibility for salary adjustments for a temporary period of time, 6-month period of time that can be extended. There's current situations that we're addressing, and then we're expecting some future situations with some potential retirements coming up. And this is only for senior management or director level positions. So I think it'll be a good addition to 147 to create some flexibility, in how we move through some of these transitions.
Okay, thank you. Council, is there any discussion, questions? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt Ordinance 08, 2021 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Any discussion?
I think
Okay, sorry.
Twice.
I know.
I think this was a really nice move by Michael Brown and the mayor, because in the past, we would have just altered and temporarily put in a title in the salary ordinance. This gives us a lot of flexibility to not, to really search out the best candidates for those positions and not do anything quickly. So I think this is a really smart way to go, and I'm really impressed with this thought. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Shannon, please call a roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ordinance 08-2021 passes 7-0. Resolution 09-2021.
A resolution honoring Black History Month in the city of Twinsburg.
I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 09-2021. May I have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I think this resolution it's well needed in the city of Twinsburg. Plus, it goes in line with our committee on racism, which will meet February 8th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Any other discussion?
That's,
Shannon, would you please call the roll?
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Resolution 09-2021 passes 7-0. Moving on to unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. Mr. Scafidi?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Mr. Barr?
Just a couple of quickies. First, I'd like to recognize that Glen Eagles Golf Course was recognized as being the #2 golf course in the state of Ohio, the highest municipally owned golf course. I'd just like to give a big thank you and congratulations to Jim and Brian over at the golf course and all our folks that work over there. That's pretty impressive. Also, over the past several weeks, there have been a lot of social media posts on community forums, on personal posts. I'd like to remind the public that every person up here, and those not up here, the finance director, department heads, those that can't be with us tonight because of our current health department limitations, everybody up here is accessible. Everybody up here is reachable by telephone or email. I believe all the contact information for every council member and all members of the government are available on mytwinsburg.com. And if there are questions or concerns that people have, I guess I just ask them again to please try and reach out to your ward rep or a counselor at large or the mayor's office or the law director. This administration is working hard to improve communication with the residents. And communication requires participation on both ends. And listen, we're not perfect, but I would just hope, and I just want to encourage everybody, that if there is something that they have a concern about or that needs to be addressed, instead of getting everybody all worked up in a social media post, reach out to one of your representatives, reach out to the mayor, the finance director, the law director. Let's see if we can work through it. If you don't like the answer, post away, but at least you're dealing with factual, concrete information. And that's, I guess that's all we can ask for, is to just try and continue as a community to work through improving our communication with one another. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said, Scott.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker?
I would like to give my condolences to the Simachek family, Dan Simachek. And we worked together as trustees on the Twinsburg Historical Society, and he just kept you laughing. He was such a really nice guy, and so my condolences, because I've known him for maybe 4 years, and we worked well together on the Historical Society.
Mr.
That's all I
Fury?
have. Oh, sorry.
I'd like to, those are fantastic comments, Scott.
Thank you.
The we are making an effort to educate the residents on what's going on in the city with an outreach of additional public information. We had over 1,000 people respond to the city's survey about what their thoughts and concerns are. And I tell you, the number 2 complaint, or the number 2 negative through 1,100 residents was bad information on Facebook and mean-spirited information on Facebook. So again, Scott's point is, we just won an award for transparency in our finance area for our audits, a 4-star award. We'll give you the right answers. I mean, you don't have to agree with us and then, again, post away, but misinformation that becomes fact is not good for us as a community. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Bellin?
Thank you. I would just like to thank Mr. Campbell, Ms. Moore, and especially Mary Yates for stepping up and confirming that we're going to have the light at Liberty and Neely Lane. Thank you very much. I know that will make quite a few people very happy, and myself as well. And then finally this evening, I would like to thank Mrs. Collins. I got an email from the resident looking for some information about the survey results, and Shannon went out of her way to assist him. I know he appreciated it, and so did I, so thank you very much. Nothing further, thank you.
Mrs. Stopper?
I would like to express my condolences to the Simicek family as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, nothing else from me this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Maestros?
Nothing additional, thank you.
Mrs. Cowan?
Just wanted to send my condolences to the Simicek family, but also to all of our guys over there. A lot of them were hired by him as when he was chief, and a lot of them were close with him back then and still today. So keep those guys in your thoughts too.
Great. Thank you. We have no absent members to excuse, so we are adjourned at 8:07.
Woo-hoo.